All right, Sandy. So what is the perfect number of PMP questions that a student should take?
I mean, I think, roughly between 500 and 1,000 questions, I think is a really good number. If you have access to that number of questions, I think it's great. Because what happens is I don't recommend just taking question after question after question just to say, okay, I've done 1,000 questions.
Sure.
But I think you have to be smart about it. So as you're studying the material, like say you've studied communications, you're like, okay, I want to test, my knowledge on communications. Then you can do a quiz of say 10 questions, maybe 20, right? Just to see that you've retained that information for that particular module or that area that you've been focusing on. So I think that's really good to test your knowledge as you're going through the studying. And then as you get closer to taking the exam, then I recommend doing, because we know that the exam now is 180 questions. So you can start practicing either doing 60 questions, take a break, 60 questions, take a break, and then the rest of the 60, just so you know what that feels like, you know what your timing is like, you know how much time you have left over to review the previous questions, that kind of thing. And then you might sit down just for 180 questions to see what that's like to sit down for that length of time. So that by having 500 to 1,000 questions, I think that gives you a really good number set to be able to accomplish that from when you first start studying until right before the exam.
I love it. So it's more of like, we want to be smart about it. We want to understand like why we're taking questions and when we're taking them, and not just taking 1,000. Sandy said 1,000. I'll sit down on Tuesday and I'll be done on Thursday. I'm going to take 1,000, right? Like you don't want them to take infinite number in a row, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the other key point to remember is don't start taking exams before you've started studying the material. So you can take like a baseline exam, right? Just to see how you are as of today before you study. And it's an exam, maybe 50 questions or something like that, that kind of it covers all topics, right, on the exam, just so you know where you are and if there's any areas that you need to focus on. So I think that's really important. But then as you're studying the materials, then go take quizzes. You don't want to take quizzes before you studied the material, because if you get the answers wrong, you don't know why they're wrong, right? If you get them, and true might be also, if you get it correct, you may or may not know why that answer is correct. So study the material, then take a quiz. I would do it in that order.
I love that. And the part of it kind of that leads into like what you and I do like on a regular basis, like you just got off a call a while ago, to say, spend the time thinking, like you just said, why'd you get it right? Why'd you get it wrong? Squeeze all the goodness out of it. And like, we do that live a lot, like every week with the students, but like, how does that play into the, like taking questions the right way as far as like learning from it while you're in the fight? How does thinking about it matter in a sense?
Yeah, that's a great question, Scott. I think, I know some students will just take quizzes and they'll be like, oh, I got that one right. Great. And then, the next one is like, oh, I got that wrong. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Right. But I think a really smart way to do that is take a quiz. It's like 10 questions. Yeah. And then see, and at the end of it, you can see what your results are. And then for the ones that you got correct, say, okay, why is that answer correct? Right? Why is that the best answer out of the 4? Or it could be several answers now based on the new exam, right? Yeah. But why is that the best answer? And then why are the other answers not correct? So I think it's that part of going back and studying the actual question. If you can figure out what the key words are, is it agile? Is it traditional? Predictive? Is it, do you know which knowledge area or process group you're in? But then actually knowing why the answers are correct or incorrect, or if the answers are all correct, why is the one that was chosen, why is that one better than the rest of them? So that, I think, reinforces the material, because you kind of have to go back to look at in your books and stuff, oh, why is this one correct and why aren't the other ones? So I think it reinforces the material that way. Instead of just taking a quiz, oh yeah, that's correct, that's not, and then moving on, going back and look at it, it's really good.
I love it. So we'll end on that. I think it's super smart. So what I got from this was, let's be smart about how we're taking quizzes. Let's take them for the right reason at the right times. And let's not, get lost in the, I have to take 1,000 million. It's like,
Yeah.
let's squeeze and learn and be introspective in a sense and lean out there to say like, I got to learn, I got to get better. And it's an iterative process. So
Yes,
simple
exactly.
as that. We solved another one, Sandy. There we go. All right. See ya.